I've got a song in my heart. I've got a cell phone beeping. I've got a child in the background. I'm going to the store. I can tell what car is driving by just by its engine and Googling the car. Hear that? That's what we're going to talk about today. Silence.
So I'm Dan.
And I'm Nick, folks.
We're old friends dissecting one topic at a time. People, technology, media, we've got it all covered.
Each discussion here is a deep dive into our unique perspective. With taboo, forbidden subjects, they're all on the chopping block, baby. We don't pander to popular opinion. We might even get a little bit dirty.
Warning, this podcast may contain mature language and sexual content, and is for infotainment purposes only.
So join us. Have a good time.
Open up your ear holes, because we're going to fondle your follicles. And I'm Dan.
Nick, folks. Wow. Actually, I've been looking forward to this episode for a long time.
We're the Unpanders.
We're the Unpanders.
I'm sure you know it. You better know it by now.
You better know it. Episode
161.
38?
Ish.
61-ish.
No ish. I just like to sound humble.
You don't do very well. So we're going to talk about the big quiet.
Huh.
I thought it would be really cool if we did a podcast where the entire thing, we just sat for an hour.
Looked around, searched each other's souls through our eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Good thing you're really blurry, so you can't steal my soul.
I still can. Native American style. If something takes your image, it steals it forever. Part of the soul.
What does that have to do with silence, Nick?
Well, without a soul, you don't make quite the same sounds.
Interesting.
Wouldn't you agree?
I don't know. I've never been soulless before.
You've been soulless your whole life.
Maybe I've never had a soul. How do I know?
How would you know? How would you know? So, would we like to start with a definition or talk about silence? Like, what do we want to even do?
I don't know. How do you define silence? How do you define silence?
How would I define it? I would use Wikipedia. And they would say it's the absence of ambient audible sound. Audible stuff you can hear. Low intensity that they do not draw attention to themselves or a state of having ceased to produce sounds. That makes sense. It says through speech or some other medium usually. Which also makes sense because,
Do you have silence? Do you meditate? Do you?
I don't, but there is a thing on this Wikipedia page that you can press play and listen to 18 seconds of silence.
That's pretty good.
I clicked it.
Yep. Oh, no.
I don't hear anything.
It's the end of silence right here.
Well, your silence.
Yeah.
Do you think there's ever, like, silence in your house?
No. I mean, after this podcast is over and everyone's asleep, I have moments. I tend to stay up late playing on my phone, but that's still not silence.
No.
I'm purposely trying not to make this silent because there's noise in the background that I'm trying to cover up with my own voice to hide.
Is it working?
I don't know. You can tell
barely,
me later. Yeah,
barely. I can sort of tell. It's weird. Silence is one of those things that we think we always hear, but we never really hear. Because you can't hear it, folks. Just kidding. So I had a moment of silence this past week. I think it was Saturday. No. Something even better. Saturday, I think it was. We went to our friend's house who got an above-ground pool.
Oh, yeah.
And above ground pools, I don't know, they're not that much fun, but like it was in the sun. It was like dusk timeline.
Mm-hmm.
And I got in because my kid was in and he wanted to get out and I was just too lazy to move. And it was like Friday, or Saturday because it was after a long week. And I remember being in that pool and just floating. And I had a beer, but it was outside the pool. And I was just like, I'm just going to float. And he was like, I'm going to get out there. And I was like, all right, dude. And I'm like sitting on it. And everyone was at the far yard because the pool was like farther away from everyone. That's why I had to be down there because of my kid.
Mm-hmm.
And he left. So it was just me in the pool. And I fell asleep. But it was one of those sleeps where you're not really dreaming. You're out. And in fact, I know the people on the porch saw this, but I woke up and did the jerk where you, oh my God, what am I? Because I was floating. I was literally floating on a raft.
You thought you were about to drown.
I thought I didn't know, but it was, and then I realized I was on the pool. I realized no one was around, and I was like, I'm going back to sleep. And I slept like at a party where they had company and friends and everything else over, and I was just in a pool sleeping. And when I was done, people arrived, had arrived?
Had been arrived.
Had arrived?
Had brought themselves.
had been brung. So it was just funny. I didn't know them, so I went over and introduced myself, and I was like, I'm real sorry. I don't get those moments very often. And they're like, oh, we totally get it. Like, you look like you were passed out in the pool, and we saw you do this. And I was like, yeah, you saw that? And they were like, yeah. Everybody laughed, and I was like, oh, that's awesome. But, yeah, that was like my moment of like peace. And it wasn't silent. I mean, I'm sure the water was moving a little bit. Probably some crickets and stuff, but I was close to silence that I've had for a long time.
That's like, what's the Joe Rogan? They have like the saltwater tank experience. They have a name for him. Immersion? No. Deprivation chambers.
Yeah. Do you know my mom had a free pass to one for 30 minutes, and she gave it to me. And she said you have to use it by January or February of the one that just passed.
It. Yeah.
Yeah, I never got around to it.
Oh,
and
damn
then
it.
COVID.
Perfect experience to share on the podcast.
I wonder, it would have been great. I mean, do you have a deprivation chamber going on back there? It seems a little loud. Screamy.
Oh my goodness. That's probably why Rogan has one. I would like bury it in the ground, like in like a bunker, and just like dive into it.
So what did they say? You float, and the salt water makes it so that it's more dense than regular water,
like
so you're kind of pushed up by it.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, you're kind of floating in it, like total floating. And that, what do? They shut you in it. Like you have to sign a waiver or something, and they close it so that like no light and no sound comes in.
I don't know if there's no sound. I mean, they describe it like that, but I'm sure you can hear things.
Like a machine humming gently in the background. I don't know.
If you're floating, your ears are in the water. I would assume
you can hear more.
You can probably hear like
salt water, though.
Yeah, like the same thing with water. Is like you hear all like the noise travels faster, right? So like you hear like little creaks.
But it's denser than regular water, so maybe it's almost closer to regular sound. Not quite.
That's pseudoscience, and we don't approve of that here on the Unpanderers, Nick.
We do not. No. Everything science by the books here.
Have you ever been in like an anechoic chamber?
No, what's that? Oh, is that the soundproof ones?
It's soundproof, but the intention is that you don't get any echoes at all, and it's really unnerving. I've been in a few of them because NASA has this.
How big are they?
The one I was in.
Closet or like a room?
I've been in both the closet and like a very large room.
Oh, that'd be weird in a large room.
It's very strange. It was also really like dilapidated. It was like must have been like 50 years old, and there were like mushrooms growing from the floor, but it was like used for recording sounds that were given off from different like equipment that was going into space. But when you're in there, it's weird not to have a voice. Like if you talk, like you don't really like hear yourself. Like the reflection of your voice doesn't come back to you. So you sound kind of like impotent. Like you don't have like a strong voice in that environment.
Really? That would be wild. I kind of want to check that out.
It's also, if you're like in there for longer periods of time, your ears start to adjust, and you start to really hear your own like creaks and body noises. And you start to like hear your breathing. It becomes like invasive,
I can imagine that.
And heartbeats. And like when you blink, you can hear your eyes blinking.
Yeah, I could see that. That's funny because I was reading up on it, and you kind of, as long as you're alive, you can't hear complete silence because the blood is rushing through your body.
Yeah.
Noises we don't usually hear, but that's why when you're terrified and your adrenaline's pumping and everything's on edge and you think you're being hunted or you're hiding under the bed from a killer, you can hear your blood pumping because A, you're as quiet as can be, your ears are strained, all your senses are pushed to the limit, and guess what? Your blood's still pumping and it's pumping pretty fast. So you can actually hear it. You can hear your heartbeat, like that feeling when you're in a closet and you're hiding from someone or something. So, and you're breathing as well. You're very aware of it. Like, you know what I mean? And you're always breathing, so you can never not hear anything. There's a whole bunch of websites that dedicate, like, if you actually experience true silence, you would go crazy. It drives the human mind mad. And I think they're kind of BS, but maybe a little bit, right?
I think that it would. I think it would drive me crazy because then you'd just be so, you wouldn't be in tune with yourself. You'd start to like be too aware of yourself. You wouldn't be able to avoid listening to yourself.
As a kid, did you ever go through phases where you were like super conscious of your breathing? Like you realized when you breathe in and when you breathe out, and then you did it so many times in a row that you forgot how to automatically breathe? Did that ever happen to you?
No.
I swear to God, dude. I would be like...
You jerked awake.
And then I'd know. And then I was like, how do I automatic breathe? And I couldn't remember because I was counting my breaths and paying attention to my breathing. And it got to the point where I was like, fuck, I can't stop this. I'll die. Like, yeah, I really thought I was going to die or like have to breathe for the rest of my life. I think I was like 7 or 6 or 8 or somewhere in there. But
you'll never be able to focus on anything ever again.
I'll be like, I'll always be breathing. And it wasn't as forced as that, but I knew I was breathing. I was like, breathing in. Okay, you're breathing in. Now you're breathing out. Okay, I'm breathing out. And then I was like, oh shit, how do I stop?
It's weird that you bring that up because there was a monk describing meditation and he said your monkey brain doesn't stop thinking. So like what you have to do is give your monkey brain a task. By focusing on your breathing, you give the monkey brain a task so he can go off and do his other thing while you can calm the rest of your body. He's like, that's how
that kind of makes sense.
Works. Yeah. So focus on your breathing.
And it's
very relaxing. It's probably the amount of oxygen you breathe in, though. It's just a false sense of...
It's probably related to it.
Yeah. There's no more peace in your body. There's no way to get happy from this. You can't manipulate yourself to feel better.
Yeah, you could. Maybe not.
Hard drugs.
Hell yeah. The natural ones only.
Yeah, derived from leaves.
Man-made up.
Buds.
Airbuds.
So, I don't know. I don't know why I picked silence. I think it's because I haven't had silence, because I'm always required to do something with somebody or have something around. I actually had, maybe that's because of this, like for the first time in a long time, I had an hour where I was left alone in this house by myself. And like, there's a weird thing that happens when you're left alone and you can choose what to do. And I feel like if you only have a short time, you end up doing exactly what you've always done because it's routine.
Yes, 100%. There's an old Rob Delaney tweet. It was one of his originals, and it was my wife and family left. I'm literally paralyzed. No, what should I do? I'm literally paralyzed between jerking off and eating an entire pizza. Help. Something to that effect. And he was so excited that he had free time that he wanted to do all his free time activities at once. He wanted to order a pizza. He wanted to jerk off. He wanted to watch some stupid kung fu movie. He wanted to do all this stuff. But he only had an hour of free time. Like, which one to do? And it was so excruciating to pick the wrong one that it's like he was not enjoying his free time anymore. It was distressful and anxiety producing. No, what do I do? This happens as you get older and maybe you accidentally do drugs, let's say, and you're like really high or something, and everyone goes to bed and you're like, oh, I could listen to my favorite album. I could listen to a new album. I could watch a really funny Adult Swim show. Oh, I could take a hot shower. That's always awesome. Yo, you know what I could do? And you go through 40 different things that you could do, and you're like, oh no, I got to go to bed. Which one do I do? And you're like, I'm not going to enjoy any of these now. I think like that's just getting older, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
But what did you do in your house alone with your? Did you enjoy silence?
I forget the beginning part of it, but it was enjoyable. I ended
You
up
were
going
alone
for
in
a
your
run.
house.
Yeah, I went for a run.
Did you? Oh, look at you.
I didn't have to like sneak around the house and like try to get away from them. Couldn't. Usually they track me down. They hunt me like bloodhounds.
Yes, they do. They know where you are. They know when you have free time, and they know when you're busy, because that's when they'll ask for something too.
Yes, when you're truly focused and into something, it will break your focus. So without silence, I guess this is the opposite of it, is that if you're forced to like work with a group of people in a very tight space and you can't get silence, then you fill it with white noise, or you fill it with a podcast or some music. Like the things that bring you comfort are the things that you can like just kind of put on play and ignore. Or it's like
background noise.
Like rain. I like my my room. It's like the roof is right there, so like it doesn't have anything on top of it, so you can hear the rain. It's very, very loud, but it's comforting. So like I'll wake up in the middle of the night with the rain pouring, and I'll just like stay awake for an hour listening to it, and it doesn't bother me. That
Literally
it's, like,
an hour?
disrupting. Yeah, it doesn't disrupt my it disrupts my sleep, but it doesn't disrupt my happiness. So I'm just kind of like, it's like my own little
like a legit hour.
Yeah, a lot of time.
Not like 40 minutes, right?
45 and a half.
I'm just asking. I don't know. To me, that's weird. I don't care.
And that rain doesn't ever wake you up, and you just like sit there and listen to it.
Yeah, maybe 15 minutes, 20 minutes. I don't think it's ever kept me up for an hour.
You can't. I don't know. Once you're there's definitely like time frames where you're awake. If you're awake for like a minute or two, you can go back to sleep.
Like yeah.
And REM cycle and all that bull. Scientists, what do they know?
What do they know? Science.
I'm the greatest.
So, ironically enough, a week ago, maybe, I lost power.
Oh, yeah.
And I was it was the night that we recorded a podcast.
Maybe that's why.
And so, we recorded a podcast, and the power went out, which it'll do time to time, in a big storm. And it came back on. And I turned on my computer and started recording a podcast, and the power went out. And then it went on, and I started my computer, and the power went out. And then the power came on, and I waited literally 2 minutes. I started my computer. I continued my podcast. And what did we get, 5 minutes?
Yeah, and it cut out again. So that's another
thing. It cut out again and stayed off.
Mm-hmm. Is that at my work we have these devices that make alarms that are constantly going off. But all these electronics around us, they have this like nice whine that you can't avoid. Like if you really were to make it silent, you would hear like the monitor you're looking at.
One or two of them going off somewhere or something.
Yeah. You could hear it, like the little like electrical like buzz. It's just unavoidable. So like when the power went out, did you find that it was like something like strangely peaceful, or was it awkward?
So I went upstairs. I said, "Damn it, we aren't going to finish that episode." I was enjoying it, and I went on my back deck, and it wasn't raining, but it was lightning everywhere in all directions, like that lightning that you can see light up everywhere. Yes. So I made a drink, or I had a drink already. I just poured more of it, and I sat out on the back deck for like 15 minutes and just sat and looked at the lightning while the houses were all dark, except for like, I think that's my east. I'm not sure directionally, but anyway, to the east, like half a block. From there on, they're all good. And it was just really, it was peaceful. But then I went inside, and I wanted to poop. Why not? And I pooped by flashlight, which was kind of interesting. Yeah. Except my girlfriend got up, and then she opened the door because she didn't think anything was in there. She had no clue the power was out. And I was like, "I'm pooping. Can you please?" And she's like, "Why do you have a..." And she closed the door. And I was like, "Power's out." But like, can you imagine if the power wasn't out and I was just pooping with a flashlight? She was like, "What are you doing?"
I have one of those little night lights that's motion sensed. So like whenever I do that at night, it's never with the light actually turned on. It's with the motion sense thing. So like it turns off every 10 seconds. So if you're in there pooping, it's just like, and then you gotta like
goes back off.
You're on the toilet waving your arms around to like get it to turn back on, and it turns back on.
Okay. So after I was done pooping, this is the last part of the story.
Okay.
I went back into the living room and I was going to watch TV, but the power was out. So then I was going to look at my phone, but I was at 5%, and I was like, well, whatever. So then I thought, what am I going to do? And I sat on my couch and I took a sip of my drink and I put it down on the table and it made a real loud clang and I heard the ice in the drink and I was like, And I tried to be at peace, but it was kind of warming up because the air conditioner wasn't working. And I grabbed the glass again and I did another drink and I could hear the whole drink and I could hear the ice clinking.
Swallow.
And then I put it down. Yeah, and then I put it down and it hit the table real loud and then it was like just clinking there. And I was like, I wish someone else was up. This is depressing. I was like, I can hear myself drinking. And I was like, oof, I think I'm done. So I finished that drink and I was like, it's like drinking alone. Like I don't even have the TV on. I didn't have a phone to look at. It was just depressing at some point. And I was like, oof, I'm done.
I could hear you say that if you were like passed out completely and like the first thing that comes to mind and you can't see or like smell anything. It's like, I can hear myself drinking and you're just, and you just keep swallowing as you're passed out.
So yeah, that was weird. I did have a silence episode where I heard myself drinking and it was weird. And I was like, this.
There's also something fearful in silence too. Like I've worked in buildings where it was just me, and like for the entire day it was just me, and it's like I lock all the doors because I feel like the silence is invasive. That like anything around me is like especially waking up in the middle of the night and you hear something, and like it breaks your focus. So you're constantly thinking that something else is coming in.
I just got the goosebumps, so I know it's a good topic. So when I worked at my parents' place, it was a building built in the 40s that was just carved out and made for storage. So it was like a house that people lived in turned into storage in like the 60s, 70s, somewhere in there, maybe late 70s. But it's dilapidated. I mean, there's mold on the walls. There's steel beams that jut through. The concrete is falling apart. It crumbles all over the floor. There's some running water in some of the buildings, but some not. There's like a refrigerator from the 1940s that doesn't work, isn't plugged in, but was sitting somewhere for 40 years. When I would go through those buildings, you could hear a weirdness that was so quiet, it was creepy. Like you could go into the basement of somewhere that was built in the 40s or 30s or whatever the hell it was, and no one had lived there except boxes for like 30 years. And we'll go down, we'll move the boxes, but that's all the action it gets. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. There's like a light in there, but the air doesn't always move.
It's dead.
It is dead, but it's still there. It's still alive, sort of. Mm-hmm. Like it wants to be dead. So you could hear really weird silences. And correct me if I'm wrong, what you were just referencing, but it's like silence can be really loud. Like where sometimes you're like what you said when you're in a building alone, the silence is like, whoa, it's so loud, this is weird. I can hear how quiet it is. Right? You know that feeling?
Yeah, exactly. It's like when someone's talking and they just stop. It draws you in and it makes you focus on the things you don't want to. Like you don't have a choice because your sensory, like you need stimulus. So like if you don't have visual stimulus and you're not doing anything else, it's like your hearing is probably the most attuned thing that can be like all around you. Like if everything in front of you was still but you heard something moving behind you, how do you not look behind you?
Oh, you would. That's impossible.
Yeah.
So I got the science for us. We talk about silence all the time, but silence is very relative. So for human beings, I think we can hear in the 20 hertz to 20 kilohertz frequency. Okay? Usually 0 to 120 decibels in loudness.
Yeah. This podcast is actually shaped around human hearing. So any of the high frequency stuff is cut out, and any of the really low frequency stuff is ours. It's the filters. Yep.
Yes. What is that called?
I forget.
We used to attune it. Attenuation.
Attenuation, yes.
Got it. Pre-attenuation. That was close.
Yeah.
So some humans can hear as low as negative 15 decibels because it goes negative because whatever the zero is.
Loudness, yep. Logarithmic.
Let's see. Dogs hear 40 hertz to 60 kilohertz. So their hearing is actually
Higher frequency.
higher than ours. Higher frequency, right. But also lower sound. They can actually hear up to negative 20 decibels usually. Dolphins can hear 100 kilohertz in frequency. So that's why they're a higher pitch. Sometimes they call each other's names and crap, and it's all in higher pitch. So absolute zero silence doesn't really ever happen, does it? Can we get into that?
So what do you mean by absolute silence? Are you talking about like frequency wise? Like you can't make a sound that has zero frequency. It would be.
Can you? So if I'm in space.
Oh, space! I love space.
Okay.
Like if
I know you do.
If you change the pressure, like barometric pressure, like doesn't have a sound to it. Like wind moving by might because it has a vibration. But like if it just like slowly, like the pressure rose or dropped slowly, you couldn't hear that pressure change.
So if it kept getting lower and lower and lower and lower
until you were in space and had no pressure.
Okay.
Leading you on.
A, would you be able to hear?
So in
like
space,
if someone yelled?
In space, you can't hear anything. If you ever watched the videos of them doing like EVAs. Like they hear the clink of like the umbilical, and then it's just like them breathing. So like it's really weird. Like you hear like the nylon, and then like a metal like clink, and then it's like they're at the end of the rope, and then they're just like you can hear them like working with the metal. But if you are completely unattached and there's no sound, like there's no pressure around you at all, you can't transmit sound out of your away from your body. It's all contained within you. You can't make it vibrate.
So if you scream in space, nothing's vibrating to go. Exactly. Mm-hmm. Because nothing's vibrating across the relay between you and whoever else you're screaming at or whatever. Mm-hmm. So literally, no one can hear you scream in space.
Yeah. There's also a neat thing if you were like launched out of a vehicle in space. Like people think like you're gonna die instantly. But really what's going to happen is that like you'll depressurize, so you're going to like exhale and won't be able to inhale because you can't pressurize yourself, and then you lose pressure, so like your body cools down like instantaneously.
Does it explode or implode?
No, it like
so what does it do?
Like your lungs are filled with pressure, and when you open your mouth, like all of the air will be forced out, and then when you lose pressure, your body actually cools down. So you will cool down to a
freeze
point.
To death?
Yeah. Well, you won't freeze to death because after a certain point, you'll be hit by like cosmic rays in the sun and radiation and stuff, but you won't be able to get rid of any of the heat that you're generating. So you'll slowly warm up, and it'll actually be like a heat death.
Wouldn't you be dead from asphyxiation though before that?
I think you'd warm up before you get to that point. Because
really?
I think it takes several minutes. Yeah.
That's wild. That's kind of nuts.
Mm-hmm.
So these people on these missions, do they have background noise at all going on at all to keep them from going crazy?
I think astronauts like play music all the time. A little like.
That would make sense.
I mean, you also have.
I'd be curious to know whether they use Google Play, Spotify, or like Apple Music. I'm just curious.
It's like
we can get the official word.
Yeah.
I'm just curious. Yeah, you know.
What are you looking for? What kind of stat? Where you going, Nick? Where you going?
I'm looking at different things.
Drive this train, Nick.
Okay. What about misophonia?
Misophonia.
Extreme reactions to a sound. In most cases, rage, anxiety, or disgust. And it happens to certain sounds. Nails on chalkboard.
Brown note?
No, we're not talking about the brown note yet. We're talking about like nails on chalkboard.
Yes.
Do you have any of those?
Ooh, I don't. Yeah, I don't like the nails on chalkboard. I don't.
I don't mind it.
You know, you actually don't. It doesn't freak you out.
No, I mean I don't like it. I just said I don't mind it. No, it doesn't freak me out. Do you know what does? A fork or something on a metal bowl, like when you're scraping a metal bowl. Ooh, makes my skin crawl. I don't like it.
I hate when I
like
hear
if you're getting
people
potato salad and doing that. That's my ex-girlfriend had that, and she would get nuts about that. Oh my god!
It's like, can you please? Like, I've had those before, where it's just like, I have to turn up the TV louder and louder until it's like I can't hear you chewing. Because some people chew like they're like livestock. They do the breathing.
Well, you have to breathe while you're eating, dude.
You don't have to breathe that loud. Why do you, like,
all right.
you know how you can breathe and then chew. You don't have to do both at the same time. Like, that doesn't work. So that's problematic. I don't know that there's any other sounds that really drive me nuts.
I'm trying to think if there was another one for me, and I kind of forgot it. So metal on metal kind of bothers me, especially like a fork on a metal bowl, just kind of emptying it. Creeps me out. What about, are there any singers or anything that makes you, I don't know.
So I watch a lot of X Factor, because there's certain singers that, like, they hit that note. It's really interesting.
What, the glass piercing? The glass shattering one?
It doesn't have to be like glass shattering. It's just like, I don't know what, it's a variety of singers, men, women, and different songs. So like, they hit a note so well, maybe, or they hit it just right that it gives you goosebumps. I think we've talked about this.
Probably Whitney Houston, the Bodyguard song, I Will Go On, I Will Survive, whatever the hell it's called. Am I hitting it?
Yeah.
I'm hitting it. Okay, good.
We'll always.
That's one of the craziest note hitting things that like really hits you, and I'm like, holy shit. So what is it with singing? It's a timbre, a note, a volume, a frequency. I mean, it's got to be a lot of things at once.
Yeah,
we do. I can't recall. I didn't watch it.
The human part of it. Do you think it? So like, I have no idea what this actually looks like mathematically. Like, if there's a perfect like resonance in her voice when she hits those notes, because that's the purest sound, right? Is if it's like, if you can sing multiple octaves and they all fit within each other and there's no disruption.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
That's what I assume I'm hearing, but like, the human body might not work like that. Like, the human body might actually be picking up on like human cues. It's like a robot could make that frequency, right? And it'd be disturbing to have a robot sing that song.
And adding like mini notes in between them. And you're like, oh my god, the Michael Jackson of robots. It would be wild. No.
So like, I don't think a robot can sing. Like, I don't think a robot can impart that much reaction in human beings the way like Whitney Houston went and sang that song, or that other singers imitated.
I would agree. I would totally agree with you.
At least not yet.
Singing is different, though. I feel like that's, and the reason I'll say this is because I feel like sometimes corpulent women or men sound better.
Bigger bodied? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And I think that has to do with your whole body. Yeah. Like, the sound comes from your diaphragm. Your whole body is like an echo chamber, and it's like going through you and then through your vocal cords, which you can adjust as you wish, and then out your mouth. So all of them are so imperfect that it may create the perfect engine or experience for you to...
Yeah.
It's more personal. Like, you could make a machine that would make that noise, but it wouldn't have the same cellulite. It wouldn't have the same, fucked up eye tooth over here, and like maybe smoker's larynx over here.
Yeah.
And all of those things actually make part of the music that you hear. So maybe you're actually hearing a fucked up larynx and a fucked up eye tooth and some cellulite here, and that's part of the sound that you hear.
Yeah.
Which is my argument for why some people make better food than others. The oils in their fingers, and
they share pieces of themselves.
They do. Think about it. There's tiny bits in there. Would you agree?
It's like skin shavings or something.
Do you disagree? Yeah.
Human dust.
Do you think?
Wow. This is.
Do you think there's?
Pasta visual.
Do you think there's? Do you think there's no way that you have absorbed any part of the cook or the chef?
This is like the beginning of cannibalism. You're like, this is fantastic. Like,
just a tiny bit. I don't know.
This is really quite a fetish to be like can I get my regards to the chef? And then you like snip a piece.
He stuck his finger.
Just as salty as
delicious.
I might have thought. Keep it comfort, Dale. Oh my god.
Wait, what if you were like, you're not the chef? And they were like, out.
Yeah, but I was.
And then they showed the mouse. There's a mouse with a chef's hat in the back. Yeah, that's what it is.
Yep.
Okay.
We're sued.
So,
but the sound that you hear, I don't think I've ever had like a Whitney Houston in front of me without a microphone. Like what I'm hearing isn't actually her voice. It's the reproduction of her voice, but it still does it.
That's true. That's true. Well, some people would also argue that her live version is better or whatever. You have to be there to see it. So I won't argue with that. So by the time you hear it, it's been altered, coded, touched, decoded, affected 10 times.
Mm-hmm. Well, maybe a couple times.
Coded.
Yeah.
So it could be 10. I mean, it's also coming out headphones or whatever speaker you're listening to it on.
My speakers are not that great. So like audiophiles, that's one of the
I have
things.
monitors.
Yeah, monitors. They're not speakers. They're monitors.
They're monitors. Okay, speakers have different resonance and weird ups and downs. Monitors are flat, expensive flat, so they give you the sound quality as it's meant to be delivered to your ears. Actually, I'll have you know.
Apologies.
You're right. And a 100-watt subwoofer that I found at quite a bargain.
Nice. I did
the JBLs. No big deal.
Not a big deal. Yeah. I did have speakers growing up, but I like.
What'd you have? I'm literally.
I had like some Bose that I've like had at like Circuit City that were like decent.
Okay.
I still have them. They still work. It's kind of amazing. But
well, that's fun. I had the Klipsch 2.1, which everyone who had really good college speakers when we went to college knows about the Klipsch 2.1s, dude. But
is there legendary status?
No, I have two friends who I met, one who went to college with us and one who like I just talked to at random. He's like, yeah, I had Klipsch. The 2.1? What? You had them? And they were, it's just funny that they were probably reasonably priced and really good. But everyone knows about them. And I was like, yeah, Klipsch Pro Media 2.1s? Oh my God. It just died like 3 years ago. So.
Oh, sadness.
But what we're getting at is we're talking about individual sound profiles and sound reproducing machines. Like, are you a headphone guy and shit like that?
It's kind of a strange thing because I have multiple setups and they like I could play speakers over here and do earpiece and earbud, yeah, and whatever it is, I don't know that it matters to me. Like the quality of sound used to matter when I had like a 6 speaker setup and it was like, oh, this is the purest you can get. But like after a while I was like, but it doesn't really add to the experience. It's the same thing with like
diminishing returns.
Mm-hmm. It's the same thing with a giant ass TV that gives you like 240 hertz or whatever. Like it doesn't mean that you're more into the show. Like you're mentally does not require that you have all that stuff to be fully into it.
No, think of this. Can someone from 1940 have enjoyed a radio show like the friggin'
War of the Worlds?
The Shadow.
Yeah.
Okay, well, The Shadow, but the War of the Worlds. Like, can you in 2020, who has like the most ridiculous setup, enjoy something more just because your medium is better? I mean, not necessarily, right?
Except for VR. Like if you have VR something, it could be shitty like block of animation stuff, and then you're still into it more because it's all encompassing. But I
disagree.
You disagree? You're like, this doesn't.
I do.
You're just doing it out of spite, Nick. It's out of spite.
Just out of spite. No, and I'm like vaguely an audiophile. Like not really. Like I'm like into audiophile stuff, but not like I won't buy it. I'm like, yo, they sound dope. And someone's like, oh my God, what kind do you have? And I'm like, whatever came in the box.
So your microphone is probably the closest you've come to like trying to reproduce your like sound perfectly, right? Because we did the same thing where we bought shitty microphones, and then we learned how to actually use them, and then realized that they couldn't do what we wanted them to do. And my microphone is actually $20 microphone, which was better than the $40 one I bought. Because I had a Samsung Meteor, which I didn't like at all. I
did the snowball, which a lot of people do the snowball
to start.
And then I did. So then that was like $48, and then to upgrade when I was like, it was for my birthday 3 years ago, or 2 years ago, because it was shows of my time hop all the time. I bought some Sony Soundtime, whatever. It was a discontinued model, but it was like usually $198, and it was on sale for like $98. But I mean, it was discontinued, and I was like, let's get it. So it's $100, and it does a good job, but I don't know
what to compare
again. Audiophile, yeah, exactly. I don't have 14 mics, and I'm not singing.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to reproduce my voice, I guess, as best it can sound.
So that's the other thing, is that for these, I think it's called a dynamic mic versus a condenser. Like a condenser is like a shorter field, right? So like this shitty mic surprises people because I filter it right, and like for people that have done podcasts with us, they're surprised that I don't have to change anything about the sound or edit it. Like this is naturally what it sounds like when it gets recorded, and we just I just pump it through like an automated filter that does it.
Attenuation helps. Microphones not being garbage, but don't have to be $1 million mics. And you've actually come across the world of editing sound, which is a thing that I've looked at and dabbled in and started to do with music, but it was too much. So I kind of gave up, and you kept going. So
how do I describe
when you're editing sound, what are you actually editing? So we have sound waves. It's both of us speaking. It's both of us talking. It's frequencies up, down, up, decibels, but it's all probably within a range.
Yeah.
And then you kind of clean it up so that it sounds good. How do you do that? Do you cut out some high highs and low lows, or?
Do you remember the beginning, the first 30 episodes?
Yeah, I do.
With our shitty mics, there was a definitive whine and background noise and white noise. And like I was trying to kill all that. So I had really bad audio that taught me that like you can't really filter out bad audio. Like you can make it sound decent.
Cover some of it up, but you can't change it.
Yeah, like it clips out like some of it, and then it would like you'd miss chunks, and then you can compress it, which is like kind of making it so that different frequencies are like accentuated and other ones are like attenuated.
Is that taming the peaks and upping the valleys?
Yeah. I think it's bringing it to more level. Yeah.
Yeah.
And for the longest time I would listen to it. I think it'd be okay. And then you had those ridiculous headphones that were like $600 or something. How much did they spend on those?
$399, and I still use them to this day.
Yeah.
Although during a recording we did, they were thrown against the wall.
Are they still working? Good working?
Yeah, I mean, all the physical buttons on the outside don't work as well, but they're like volume and something else, and I could just do that with my phone. But it's still, I don't forget it. I just
keep yourself in your bubble. Keep you safe.
Keep in mind they're noise canceling, and I want to talk about that.
We will get right after this.
Go ahead. I know. Right after this. Go ahead. Keep going.
So the way I would do it was that
I was like,
exactly. I would listen to something and I'd have shitty headphones on, and I'd pass it to you, and you would tell me how you felt about it, because really the sound is important to us, and if we both agree, it's probably okay for the people who don't give a shit about our sound. Or there's probably some guy that's like, oh, this is terrible. I can't possibly listen to this.
There is a point where we talked about this. What if we had amazing content, great back and forth, but the sound quality was shit?
Yeah.
Like at some point you're going to be like, I just can't. Like I'll listen to something that's easier to listen to because I'm not listening to it. Like I'm listening to it as background noise, and I want some nice background noise.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? That's what a lot of people listen to podcasts do.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah. So
I run the Share podcast. Or podcast sharing. I don't even know what my own Reddit is, but it's on Reddit.
Yeah, the Reddit. Yeah.
So there's people that are all newbies, like posting their own episodes, and they always ask me like, "Oh, how's this? How's this?" I'll listen to it, and like within the first 5 seconds, it's like, I can't. Like I'm the sound snob because I've experienced it for 160 episodes, and I go.
Now you realize that I just can't. This is not good enough.
Yeah, and people. I mean, there's probably 90% garbage out there that like they're talking about nothing, their sound is crap, and then it's like, what kind of content, what kind of information, like what kind of entertainment can I get out of it? And I can't do it anymore. I'm sorry. It's over. It's over between us.
Chop.
Yep.
Even if their content was good.
Yeah, I kind of want to have a website that will say, like, let me rate the sound in your podcast, and, like, upload your file and be like, your sound is this shitty.
Or I'll fix your rig. Tell me what you're doing. I'll tell you what you're doing wrong. Fix it. Here's a flat fee.
Let me tweak it.
You should check out What the Famicom. That's a podcast that's great.
He always laughs. Can never get it out with a straight face.
I know.
So noise canceling. What actually happens there?
It's a frequency that I believe the technology detects, and it creates a counter frequency to knock it out.
Yeah.
That's kind of fucked up.
Yeah, because a wave
there hasn't been enough
positive and a negative, right?
Yeah, and it literally
inverts it.
That's insane to me. So
yeah.
I know some people are like on like a boat where they're like, we don't know enough about sound canceling technology or noise canceling technology where this could hurt your ears years down the road. I mean, you're dumping twice the amount of sound into your ear to make no sound, kind of.
I don't know about that, because waves are additive unless they're subtractive.
I don't disagree with that, but then are you receiving twice as many waves or not?
No, I don't think so. You're like, if it would be interesting.
Where is the anti-wave?
Since the Beirut explosion is fresh on our minds, if you've seen
fresh on our minds.
If you had two of those happening at the same time and you met exactly in the middle, would you notice there was an explosion?
Yeah, because one's not an anti-explosion. Two explosions amplifies. If you meant an anti-Beirut explosion?
But would you be pushed in a certain direction if you were directly in the middle?
Guess not.
You might feel the pressure difference.
On each side of you?
Yeah, but I don't know that you'd be moved left or right.
That's a hell of a coincidence.
That's strange.
Do you know something? Do you have fertilizer in your backyard?
Ammonium nitrate.
Is that what was it?
It was ammonium nitrate, yeah. It's either a fertilizer or a very dense explosive. Very massive catalyst. And sidebar is that like that explosion was the biggest non-nuke explosion, they say, of like all time.
Really?
Yeah, like
it was huge. When someone told me it was ammonium nitrate or whatever they said it was, I can't remember what I actually heard.
Almost 3,000
I don't know what it is.
Almost 3,000 tons, metric tons.
Yeah, someone was like, it was ammonium nitrate. And I was like, oh my god, like that's impossible to make that big of an explosion. They were like, I was like 2,750 tons, and I was like, what? I was like, who has that sitting around? Like, where was it? Where was it? And never mind. That might be another episode.
It could be, but the background story is that they had that in a warehouse for 6 years from a freighter that broke down, and they stored it there and didn't have any means of I think they wanted to sell it to somebody, but they kept it there.
I don't think that much fits on one freighter, does it?
I don't know how much freighters hold. I'm not a freighter guy.
I'm thinking that's like 5 freighters worth.
I know a lot of freight, but I don't know about a freighter.
Listen, a freighter, I'm having it in the morning, I'm having it at breakfast, I'm having it with my coffee.
The crazy thing is that there's so many different angles. If you watched all these angles, this is a huge
I've seen like 9 to 12 of them at this point.
Have you seen the one where it's like a nanny taking care of 3 kids?
No, what?
It's like it's a mile away, so it's not like kid gets nailed in the face with a pane of glass, but he's fine. Like he's shocked, but he's fine. Like kids are fine; they're gonna be all right. But
don't tell them they're hurt. Oh, you're fine. They're crying. Yeah. They're like, you're fine. He's like, oh, I'm good. Just don't react.
Yeah, they read into your signals. Don't give them any signals. Don't acknowledge them. Look away. Look away. Look away.
Pane of glass slitting through the head. Billy goes. He's good.
So the kid was standing right in front of the pane of glass. They saw the burning part, and I guess they saw the explosion because light moves faster. The explosion traveled through the ground into the building, and you could see like the blinds shake like ever so slightly before it actually like hit them with the wave and then blew out the glass in their skyrise.
So is there air moving in front of the wave, like it's being pushed?
Well, it's the same thing as like the density of water. It's like it goes into the ground and then displaces faster than it would in the sky, in the air.
Right. Water. Yeah, it moves through water faster. Yeah. That's how they figure out where the P zone and T zone are.
P and T zone?
No, P
seismic waves?
Yeah. P and... You better fill me out.
Is S one?
It might be S waves.
R? Maybe you?
P and... You son of a... Do you actually know which one it is? P waves and...
I think they are
son
S
of a
waves.
Bitch, I thought you knew. It might be S waves. It's P and something else.
I got it right.
Okay, seismic.
Holy shit.
Oh, shut up. But anyway.
Primary. Because they're fastest. And S waves are the secondary.
I figured it out. I'm a genius.
Wow. But that was a P wave. So like you could see it in the building when it moved. That like shit.
Then the pressure came after the fact.
Yeah. Nuts. The S wave.
All right. We can do a whole episode on these goddamn explosions.
Yeah. Crazy.
The sound of it though, crazy. So back to sound. Holy shit.
What?
Right before COVID hit, my company was redoing the office, like redoing the cubicles. They're going to be shorter, so like there's going to be more open air, and people are going to be more exposed to each other. Oh yeah, baby, open office. Yeah. So you know what they were doing? Rumor was that they were installing white noise machines to drown out the talking and different people on phones and everything going on. They actually installed them.
Wow. Does it work?
Define work. Because I know they're there, and I forget about them after about 5 minutes of being there. But it sounds a little bit like the ocean meets static from a TV meets...
Raindrops? Did you have the one that does raindrops too?
It doesn't actually make raindrop sound. It makes... I can't describe the sound. I actually can't. I just know they're on because I feel like I'm underwater in my office.
Yeah, exactly.
And I have to talk louder to people to make things travel across the office.
It's strange that you can be invasive with that. Like, that shouldn't be illegal.
It's weird, and I don't like it. But we've had it so long that now I'm back in the office, and I just talk over it and ignore it and whatever. But I don't like it.
I had a white noise generator when I was in an office with one other guy that was noisy. And
one other guy?
Yeah,
was he like,
one other person. He was
going to be talking, and you're like, mm-hmm.
It was a one-person office that they fit 2 people in. Ooh. But like everything he did, I could hear. So I would listen to this one website that would have that like watery, like white noise sound with like occasional lightning, and I was like, oh, that was great. And then they closed down the website, and then I had to listen to that guy for like another 3 months until they moved me out of their office. And then they moved me into a giant open office with a bunch of people talking, which, if you have enough people, I guess that sounds like white noise, but it's also really weird because, like,
you could focus. How fucked up is it? You could focus in on one conversation at any point in time and actually hear the words. 90% of the time, you don't know anything they're saying. Isn't that weird?
That you're not actually listening and you're just piecing together like bits. You don't.
It's just. But then if you were like, and then anyway, Sally said the other day that it's something stupid. You don't care about it, but if you do focus your attention on it, you can hear it.
Do you rip farts in your cube? Like really loud farts? So we had a guy.
Nah, not really.
We had a guy in like a 30-person office in this giant room.
We got a guy.
He'd rip the loudest, and it would break everyone's like focus. And I guess it's in between feeling bad and
pride.
Yeah.
Wait, he wasn't doing it to be prideful?
I don't know what he ate or like why it came out like that, but I would assume that you'd be able to control like that loudness. Like that loudness was just like let it go. Everyone in the office would like do the little look at each other, and then they'd all start typing and sending emails to each other like, "You did it again!" Like
G-chatting. Oh my god!
Did you hear that one? How far away did you hear that one? That blast? Did you feel it? Like Beirut. Beirut number 2.
Yeah, Beirut 2. I guess this is apt as well. So 2 days ago, I was in work, And I went in the bathroom to pop a pimple. This one right here. I remember it well.
Good thing it's blurry.
That's fine. When I go in the bathroom, it's 2 stalls, 2 urinals, and like sinks and all that, whatever. Yeah. And I wanted to make sure no one was in there because it's embarrassing to pop your pimples at work if you're a guy and whatever. But I have a nice kerchief. I look beautiful. I look beautiful. Nice. Yeah. So I was in there. I was doing my thing, and it wasn't popping. It wasn't doing my thing. And I was like sitting in there. It was like 3 o'clock. I was like, I don't know, man. So I was like, I might as well pee. I go to pee. I'm peeing. One of the guys from the warehouse came, and I never see the warehouse guy. So I'm always like, yo, what's going on? And he came there. He's standing next to me. He's like, yo, man, what's going on? I was like, nothing, man. What are you doing? He's like, here till 4. I was like, oh, cool. And he's like, are you a 5 o'clock or a 5:30 guy? Because different sales reps have different things. Mm-hmm. I said, I'm 5 o'clock, or as we say in the biz, man, I'm clocking out at 5:01. And I said that while I was finishing peeing. Mm-hmm. And someone was in the stall 2 over, the president of the company. And he goes, 5:01. And I was like, holy shit. Is that the president of the company? And he goes, how are you going to make money clocking out at 5:01? Oh. And I was like, oh, shit. And I was like, oh, I gotta pick up my kid at 5 on Wednesdays and Thursdays. And he was like, or I gotta pick up a kid at 5 on Wednesdays and Thursdays. And he was like, whose kid is it? And I was like, it's my kid. It's my kid.
He's trying to find out.
I guess that's okay. But anyway, he like finished his business, and I mumbled something else and left. And I was like, oh my god. So I was popping a pimple while the president like was right there, and I didn't hear him.
White noise in the bathrooms?
No. Usually I can hear if someone's in the bathroom with me. So.
Do you think he pulled up his legs so that you couldn't see his feet, and then he was like, oh, I'm gonna listen in on this one?
I didn't even look for it, but like I was in there for like 50 seconds. Usually in 50 seconds you can hear a fart, a cough, a breath, a shuffling of paper.
Courtesy noise to let people know that you're in the area.
Exactly. Do you
discourteous president? God.
Wait, what's my courtesy noise? Oh, I sniff.
Yeah.
Real loud. So if I'm in there and like someone else comes in, I'm like,
I'll do the.
Yeah. Anyway, the only person in the company who actually cares that I clock out at 5:01 was the president of the company, and that's who heard me. So he probably wrote me down as 5:01.
There is something strange of like an empty bathroom that has like a dozen stalls. Like NASA has a lot of those like giant bathrooms. So like there's like no way you can really tell. So like I would always do that noise to break the silence and make sure people like don't sit next to you. Like if there's 12 open stalls and they sit next to you, it's like come on, dude.
You got like 2 or 3, man. You got open.
Yeah, I gave you warning signs. Like you knew I was in there. Are you trying to be creepy? Are you creepy? Are you a weirdo? What are you doing? And then it gets silent.
What are you doing there?
It's hard. You can't shake that off when someone sits down directly next to your stall and just you start looking over, trying to figure out, is this person fucking with me?
It's weird because you can't see him. You don't know if it's like the Grim Reaper or some shit.
It could be your friend that saw you go in there, but they just
fucking way, yeah.
Or it could not. It could be the president of the company.
It could be the president of the company. Do not say the wrong thing. So, real quick, let's do a moment of silence on the podcast and just see who breaks it first, okay?
I guess I technically broke it because I was exhaling loudly.
You did.
I did grunt, a subtle grunt.
Yeah, it would be you. I was rubbing my beard as far as I could.
What was like the game where you try to make other people laugh? Is there an actual name to that?
Stare game?
Yeah, I guess that's what you call it. It's interesting that kids pick up on these things and they play the games naturally.
Mm-hmm. And without having an internet or something.
Yeah.
They just know it.
purposely try to make you feel or experience something. It's a way of training you, I guess. It's the only biological sense I can make of it.
Silence is weird. It's like sometimes you want it, sometimes you don't want it. Have you ever tried to break the silence yourself? Like like you said, a big house that was totally quiet, and then it made a real noise, like, hell yeah, 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 and it sounds fake, like you're trying to break the silence, and it makes it quieter.
Empty stadium, yelling.
Yeah. Hell yeah, I'm here. Hell yeah.
This is. There's multiple reasons why we're talking about this. Is that we're watching sports and sports without an audience.
Weird.
Yeah, isn't it strange that like the crowd noise seems like it fits with the play? Like I think they have a guy that's controlling like how much crowd noise happens during certain plays, but they don't do the bullshit like the.
So this is going to sound conceited or like I planned it for this. I can literally tell by crowd noise, at least in most hockey games, what's happening on the play, or if I'm in the other room, what happened.
Yeah.
I know when there was a good shot and then it didn't score and then the puck is frozen and then it's over. And then like puck's frozen. Yeah. I know when there's a goal. I know when there's a goal the other way because the crowd makes a weird noise where it's a muttering and then it's it's people muttering, right, like you just said. I know a shorthanded goal versus a power play goal. There's a sound difference in the crowd. This sounds insane, but when I'm watching these events live and I have to leave the room to go in the kitchen to get something or something for my kid or turn the other cheek, in football even, I know when there's a really long incomplete pass. But I know it's a really long one because the crowd starts getting up. Oh my God, that ball's still going in there. Oh! It's different than the sound of a 2-yard run or a 3-yard pass that was caught. You know what I mean?
100%.
And it's insane to me. I can even hear an interception, like where the crowd like doesn't believe it, and
like
then everyone's hitting everyone, and everyone fucking goes nuts, and then the crowd pumps the noise, and I'm like, yo, it was second down for the other team. What happened? Did we recover the ball? And I don't know if it was an interception or a fumble, but I know there was a turnover. Like, crowd noise is a real thing, and
how do you think it affects the players? Is like, I feel like they probably think it's practice, but it's also not as vicious. Like NHL playoffs, especially if you don't have the crowd being like they're shouting like expletives, you don't have somebody forcing you to punch the guy down.
The only argument against crowd noise is that it's post-eventual. Like, it doesn't happen until after a lot of times. So if you have a great goal or a takeaway.
Do you think there's an anticipation that builds?
There's a little anticipation, but I don't think you hear it when you're going up in the air.
What about even before the game starts? Like, playoff games when they're like, they have like the intro video and it's like Guns N' Roses.
And everyone's getting pumped?
Yeah,
I agree. But I also would argue you're so in tune with the game and reacting on instinct alone and not on, like, you're using your monkey brain more, if we're to use a reference from earlier, so that you don't necessarily overthink the noises you hear. They are background noise, I would say. Now, would I say that enough of it makes you feel a certain way or boost your testosterone or might heighten you or make you get the tingles? I wouldn't disagree with that. So maybe it does. And are we in a world now without that? Does that kind of suck?
It does suck a bit, yeah.
It does suck a little bit.
There was one goal from like Keith Primo way back when he wrapped it around. It hit off his foot.
Simone Gagne and everything.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, oh my God, off his foot. Yeah. That was in the Tampa Bay series. Yep. It wasn't the 5 overtime one. I actually know what goal you're talking about. We got it.
But the crowd noise in that, it was insane. Like, if you were there, you'd be like right there with the entire crowd. The entire crowd would be making the same exact noise of like the explosion of when he scored. And when it happened and I was watching on TV, I literally like jumped up from the couch and then threw myself into a window. And luckily it didn't break. But like it was that enthralling that I was like shouting, and I was the only one. Like I was the only Flyers fan in the room, And like I was reacting like I was there, and everyone else was like, "Oh, Dan really likes this stuff." Like,
damn, my man's into this.
He loves this.
Okay.
All right. Only if you're into it.
One of the loudest things I ever heard was the Flyers Senators brawl.
Oh yeah. The 10,
by the time
10
it
minutes,
got to
20 minutes of fighting.
By the time it got to the 5th stoppage of play, people were just screaming at the top of their lungs. What is the loudest thing you've ever heard? I actually don't know. I'm thinking about this. This is weird.
Like the generic like jet engines. It's probably going to be in a
yeah. Have you heard some jet engines?
I'm pretty sure we've like stood next to an airport and like watched them take off.
Okay.
The other thing is like music. I used to play music really loudly, and like I didn't, like I don't know. Like the other people would say it was really loud, but I didn't have the like what's the type that's like in ear, like the ones that don't
they were
like
over ear. So there's over ear, in ear, on ear. There's like 19 different kinds.
It's the ones that they don't contain the sound at all. Yeah. The office mates would hear me play really shitty music, and they'd be like, when like somebody like the president would walk by, they'd be like, they could hear that, and I'd be like, ooh.
I don't care.
but to me, I don't know. So it's all relative. Like you don't know how loud like something is to you, and as you lose your hearing, you make it louder and louder and louder.
Isn't that weird?
That's the other part.
I guess maybe the loudest thing I may have ever heard was Opeth, and I was at an Opeth concert, concerts get pretty freaking loud.
Just right in front of the speaker.
You get this. I was pushed from behind and in the mosh pit, and a girl in front of me, it was a girl, she was younger than me, was pushed backwards from in front of her, and my nose, the bridge of my nose hit the back of her head, like this part. Yeah. And I just remember the deepest, darkest, reddest blood coming out of my nose, and it still broke to this day. It broke it. And I remember just doing this and trying to be a part of my favorite part of the song, but really being like, fuck. Like
trying to hide it.
No, I wasn't trying to hide it. I was trying to be like, I came here for this. Don't let my face ruin it. And just the end of Deliverance playing. The that part.
So there's an element there as well. As you get older, and you start to lose your hearing, if you literally cannot hear sound, you do hear things. Like it's not like you lose your sound, like your capability of hearing, and it's like nothing.
Moving sound waves, right? So if the movement is big enough or deep enough, like is that way we can hear bass?
Feel bass.
You feel bass.
And depending on the functioning of your ear, you might be able to hear it. But if you completely lost all hearing,
is it the higher pitches that you kind of lose?
No, I think your brain interpolates like something. So like tinnitus.
I heard interpolates.
Interpolates. You like that one?
I did actually. It was really enjoyable.
Interprets, interpolates. Because whatever it's trying to figure out, it's like your brain is trying to like map something to your hearing, and your sense of hearing isn't there. So like tinnitus is a perception of noise or ringing, and it's actually really really bad.
So you can't hear anything.
Yeah.
Your brain thinks there must be a noise there. We'll accentuate any sound we can find. So it's like being in a dark room when you're quiet, and your hearing is heightened because it's trying to find different things. It's like it must be noisier. That's what you're talking about. Tinnitus, I believe, is your brain can't hear anything, or at least from the nerves or from whatever it is. So it almost amplifies this high pitched sound because it thinks that must be the sound that's going on in the background. Here you go, have it.
Yeah.
I know a guy who has tinnitus.
Does he complain about it constantly?
I don't know. I fell asleep in his above ground pool. I had a good time.
Yeah.
But yeah, he can hardly hear. He's always like, what? What? And he's only like 40, 38, somewhere in there. 42.
Yeah, it's a shame. I bet a lot of the people that were in the Beirut blast have tinnitus now. Probably lose their hearing entirely.
That's fucked up.
Yeah, it's messed up. It's messed up that like you have something taken from you and it's replaced by something that's really, really annoying and gives you headaches.
It's like really terrible.
Yeah.
It's like, there's something that was a blessing that I never really gave credit to, and it's been replaced with a curse.
Yeah.
I know you know about this. My grandmother was deaf.
Mm-hmm. My wife is deaf.
I know. One of the coolest things about being with a deaf person in general is that, at least with her, I don't know if this applies to everyone, is that you go through long swashes
Silence.
where and no one has to talk, and it's almost like, this is cool.
Yeah. There's points where like the conversation,
points where it's annoying or whatever, but
yeah, there's certain things that a normal person, like the conversation is, and sometimes when
rhythm. There's a rhythm to it. Shut up! You're my wife. Shut up, wife. Anyway, yeah.
When my wife's on the phone, like there's usually like an interpreter in the way, and like there's a delay, and then the back and forth of people like not expecting like how long the delay will be. Those are the start stop, and there's a lot of silence in between, and it's always cringeworthy. Really listening to it, it's just like, I think I've gotten used to it after like 15 years, but it really bothered. Like it's like, like you don't know how bad like the conversation actually, like you're extracting what you need to extract from it, but like you have no idea that like a fluent conversation is this, and you've never experienced like super in-depth conversation where you're like, oh, did you know that aliens came to Earth and then they probed me? Like, I didn't know that.
And then it has to get interpreted, and everyone's quiet, and then he has to interpret it, say it back, and the other person has to hear it, think about it, and then all the while that you're talking about aliens probing someone, and there's just like silence.
Dead silence.
Where everyone's waiting for everyone to hear about it.
And then a friend is like, aliens probed him.
And you're like, damn it.
That
took way too long for not a good amount of information.
Yeah. So the extended silence in conversations is really strange too. Is that if you've ever had a conversation where someone was just like staring at you blankly, you make these assumptions of like they're not listening, or they're drawing conclusions, or like you start to be introspective and be like, what did I offend you? And like, what did I do to you? And it's a really weird thing to have like
Well, you get into the give and take of a conversation. Like certain people have different expectations for give and take. Like certain people are like, oh, I give 90% of the conversation. Usually just take, I want to talk about this. I want to talk about this. I want to talk about this. Oh, now it's your turn to talk about this. And then it's my turn to listen to this. And then it's your turn to talk about this. And your turn to listen to this.
My sister had a boss that was like a Hawaiian Santa Claus. If you could imagine what that would look like.
No, I don't know what that is.
Dark skin, tan, with really like white hair.
White hair? Okay.
He's like jaggy, but like when you would talk to him, he always had this, he was for some reason always sitting in a chair. And like you'd ask him a question and he would lean back and like he'd close his eyes and not say anything and just, he'd just, and then he would come back and answer you. And
what?
And every time you'd have that conversation with him, the first few times you're like, are you asleep? Are you dead? Do you need help? And like, he would snap back into it. So after a while, you just like, you knew to roll just like 10 seconds here is the pause that he uses to like, I guess, contemplate.
Process it. Yeah. I guess, think about it, accept it.
But it's a trait. It's a trait that you learn to accept. And it's kind of funny because other people don't do that. Like I guess it's not something that you learn. It's like the anti-learning. Like most people don't like in normal conversation, like they learn to do it a certain way, and you pick up when some people just don't do it that way.
Yeah. So to summarize it, I want to finish with this: is silence inherently bad or scary or good? Because it's weird. I don't know if it's Western culture, but I feel like it's like bad.
If you were in the middle of a rock concert and it was very loud, could you tell that people were hunting you? Like if you had to fend off an attacker, I don't think so.
I wouldn't.
You'd be screwed.
Yeah, I'd be headbanging.
So you'd probably want silence if you were being tracked, or you're being hunted if you're hiding under the bed.
Though, check this. When you hear total silence, you feel like you're being hunted, whether you are or aren't. What's that? Like a paranoia that is involved with silence.
Yeah, it was the abnormalcy, right? You're not used to it.
So if it was, so if it was always quiet, do you think we wouldn't care about silence?
I don't know. If you lived alone in the wilderness like a hermit, do you think
Yeah.
you would probably?
You think you always feel like you're being tracked? A twig cracks. You're like,
I feel like you would have such an intimate sense of what, like you could probably tell which animals were around you by like how heavy the footfall was or like how heavy the crack was.
you could be. So the silence itself isn't bad. I guess it's just what you're used to versus what you're not used to is bad.
Yeah.
Maybe. So what is silence?
So there's a point here where
Yeah.
we talked about like receiving silence, but we didn't talk about like being mute, like inability to make noise. It's
So
I don't know that
So we
I
had
could live I don't know. It'd be very tough to not be able to speak.
I agree. This is like off topic, but it just happened yesterday.
What?
The some 5-year-old girl, she was like autistic with non-verbal abilities. Like right around the corner from my parents' house and sort of by my house. She wandered out during the hurricane that we have here on the East Coast.
Yeah.
Left her house. She's 5 years old, and no one's 100% sure what happened, but she ended up in the creek that leads past my parents' house and then goes to like where my aunt's house is. And they found her at Fisher Park and dead.
Wow.
And my girlfriend said to me, she was all messed up by it. I was like, listen, like this stuff happens. Like I'm sad. Like I don't know. Like I can't process this kind of thing. I don't know the girl. I don't know the kids. I don't know. Like I know the scenario.
How do you feel
the
the
scenery.
attachment?
Exactly. And I understand.
I usually.
But I also know the scenery. I know the stream that it went down. I know went past my hair. Where I know all these things. But I'm like, I don't know the kid. I don't know the parents. I don't know anyone. And she was like, do you think she cried for help? And I was like,
That's messed up.
Fuck.
I think she's just like replacing that child with her own child.
Yes, because ours is 5.
Yeah.
So, right. And I get that. But what she said is,
the situation.
But think of this. The child was nonverbal autistic. Like, did she cry for help? I have no idea. Was she silent?
Did she want to make noise and couldn't?
I have no idea. I've never been in that situation where if I'm going to die in some weird way, I'm going to yell. I'm probably going to scream or something.
You don't have those dreams that like you try to yell and you can't?
I do, but I'm pretty sure I'll be able to make the noises when I'm dying. That's my great piece.
So that there's like 2 pieces here that like are really like
what you got?
There was the same thing happened to an autistic boy near me that he got away from a family party and like wandered into a pond and just like he couldn't swim, so he drowned. And then the other thing,
how did he keep going into the water?
They lost track of him and he just like I guess he just
how did
floated.
he keep going into the water?
I guess you trip and you don't know how to like move towards the shore. You just drift away.
That seems so weird.
It's messed up because we know how to swim and we've known how to swim.
No, forget know how to swim. If I didn't know how to swim, I wouldn't. Like, my son doesn't know how to swim. Like, he's a little okay at it. Like, he can doggy paddle. But if I threw him into the pond, he wouldn't go into the deep end. He would run to the shallow end. Like,
I don't know. Maybe they have like a little dock, a little deep spot, and you can't grab on. Like, my kids don't know how to grab on. Like, they didn't recently. They don't know how to grab onto the edge.
Sure. But would they go to the deep end? Would they jump in?
So this is the other. Well, they think they can swim, so they try. And then you're
okay. My kid would not. God damn it, kids. Stop it.
But this is the other aspect of it. Is like people assume death is a certain thing because they see it in movies and someone always makes noise or they yell or they scream and like there's some action that happens when someone dies because that's the way movies play out. But like when a child drowns, it's like people are confused. Like didn't there's I say like Derek Jeter? Did he have a as one of the baseball players that had like a son that like fell, or son or daughter that fell into the water at a party.
Someone did. It wasn't Jeter. I didn't think. Well, I mean, it could be. I'm not gonna.
It was somebody like that.
Someone big,
really high profile, And like it was at a pool party, and people just lost track of the child, and the child didn't make any noise.
Yeah, and there was like 50 to 100 people there, and then like, well, I mean,
it's that's the frightening thing, is that you lose track in the silence of like somebody in a crowd. So like the silent, I guess it's the silent majority. Is just like,
yeah, that is weird to say, but yeah.
But like, yeah, there's an expectation of noise and sound and commotion, but when things go, things are gone. So there's another piece of this that's like, if you've known what it is to have like a full house of family and noise and kids running around, and then it's gone, the silence could be excruciating to you because there's a mental anguish that happens. There's a realization that like all of that noise is worthwhile, and now you're gone. Like all that stuff is gone.
And everyone talks about their family. When we go to family outings with my family, it's like loud, everyone's crazy. When you do it with my family, it really kind of is. It's like my mom telling me to get this, someone else telling me this, my dad's trying to talk to me about this. The little cousin over here is saying, Uncle Nicky, why don't you do this? And someone else is squirting me with a hose. My own son literally calls me Uncle Nicky because it's the only way I'll answer him, because I'm so busy doing 8 things. And all the other kids are saying Uncle Nicky, that he doesn't call me Dad because I ignore him. He says, Uncle Nicky. I'm like, you're my son. What are you saying? And then like all this stuff happens, and there's like my dad being like, oh, by the way, did you hear this? There's a new Led Zeppelin song, Dave Matthews. And my mom's like, oh, by the way, did you hear? And my girlfriend says this. And then there's like 14 other people. And my aunt's coming, and she wants to say hi. She hasn't seen me in 3 months. And it's all this stuff happening at once. And then Winry comes, oh, my God. And then my little cousin, my little niece. And then my sister I haven't seen in a while. I was like, by the way, did you hear? Are you going to the party? All that happens, and it's so loud that silence is weird. I think
silence is empty.
At one point when there's silence, I won't know what to do with myself.
Yeah, my second year in college.
How do you live? How do you die, by the way?
How do you
come into this world? How do you go out?
I don't know where you're going with this. Of the cry.
You know, that's me smacking my girl's ass.
Yeah. And you whining like a llama. That's you getting the horseplay on. Let's put the leathers on.
That's me getting Winamp open, baby. It whips the llama's ass.
But
no.
the same feedback for like when I was in college the second year, and it was the first time like I genuinely like it was Mitch. So like I spent like 9 months with Mitch, and we were like that's the closest. Yeah, well. The other 2 roommates we had were turds. So it was like, it was a huge bonding experience. But I remember the moment that they all left for the summer, and I was left in the apartment all by myself, and then the emptiness is like creeps in there, or the silence. You're just like, everyone's gone.
Because it was so loud before.
Yeah. There's no interactivity. It's dead. It's a dead place, like those 50-year-old houses that you're in.
So what we're saying is silence is bad. Why? And what I want to say is it reminds us of death a little bit. Like, I was in a room with someone who died, and the only thing that changed is we went from like 6 people in a room to 5 people in a room, but no one moved. It was weird because I know that just sounds like a number going to another number, but it was weird. It was like there were 6 people in this room, and now there's only 5. And no one, like that person can never talk again. Like that person is no longer making any noises.
Do you think subconsciously you could hear them, like their heart beating and their breathing and the movement that they had? And
she was doing labor breathing, like where you, and it looks like a robot's breathing, and it was like, and then eventually it just stopped. And then one more came, and you're like, okay, they're still alive. But then like, you're waiting for the other one, and it never came, and it was like good.
Who was the first one to speak after that?
I actually don't know. That's weird.
You think it's like, all right, let's get out of here.
We're good.
Anyone want a hoagie?
Scene.
Sorry.
No, I think a lot of people start crying. I think like my dad and my aunt cried and shit like that. But what I'm getting at is like, it's weird when you come to life. People wait for you to smack some baby's ass and you cry.
Yeah.
You make some noise. You're back, baby. You're making noise. You're crying.
Alive.
You're making loudness.
Yeah.
You're making something
life.
happen. When you die, it's like the opposite. It's like, hey, your voice is done. You're dipping out.
You've checked
It's
out.
quiet. It's real quiet. And I wonder if that's kind of why we don't want quiet forever, because that means you're dead.
Yeah.
Right?
I think so. That's a good way to wrap it up.
Life and death, baby. We're making fucking noise. We're being annoying. We're being annoyed. When you're dead, you're neither nor.
Well, we like you alive, folks.
Folks, I like it live. I want to hear some feedback. I want to hear it vocally. I want to hear it. You can do sign language. You can do whatever the hell you want. You can do, just make sure you give us feedback, because otherwise we'll think you're dead.
Yeah, please don't die on us, because we like you.
Don't die on us, folks. Make some noise. Make some noise in the world. When you stop making noise, you stop making imprints. When you stop making imprints, have a great night.
Good night.
Thanks, guys.